During the hotel security crisis, they mocked him as just a taxi driver. Then they learned he had protected presidents for 20 years because Robert Bobby Martinez was waiting in the hotel lobby when he noticed the security vulnerability. But nobody wanted to listen to him until he pulled out his old Secret Service badge, and everyone's jaws dropped. Welcome to One Human, One Story. Before we begin this incredible story, tell us in the comments about a time when you discovered someone ordinary actually had an extraordinary past. And if you believe real hidden heroes' stories deserve to be heard, hit that subscribe button, because sometimes the biggest secrets are hidden in the most ordinary-looking people. Robert Martinez was 62 years old and had been working as a taxi driver in Washington, D.C. for the past 5 years, driving around the city streets in his yellow cab, safely transporting his passengers. Most people saw him as just an elderly and friendly driver, but Bobby's past was anything but ordinary. He had worked for the United States Secret Service for 25 years, protecting 4 different presidents, taking security responsibility in countless international summits and diplomatic meetings. Bobby's hands weren't just skilled at holding steering wheels. They had also mastered protecting the lives of world-famous leaders. But after retiring in 2019, he wanted to live a quiet life and decided to become a taxi driver because Bobby now wanted to stay away from action. He just wanted to spend peaceful days, but life sometimes confronts people with their past at the most unexpected moment. That fateful night, November 15th, 2024, Wednesday evening, Bobby had dropped off his last passenger at the Grand Marriott Hotel. It was 8 o'clock in the evening, and Bobby was getting ready to go home. But just as he was about to get in his taxi, he heard loud voices coming from the hotel lobby. Curiously looking inside, he saw great chaos. Hotel reception staff were running around in panic. Security guards were talking on their radios. Bobby approached and tried to understand the situation. Reception manager Jennifer Adams was talking on the phone. "Yes, I understand. The Secretary of State is coming tomorrow morning. But we have a problem with our security system." Bobby listened carefully, because a visit from the Secretary of State meant a major security operation. Hotel security manager Marcus Thompson was also there and looked very stressed. "Jennifer, this is very bad. Baker is coming tomorrow morning and the security cameras aren't working," Jennifer replied. "Marcus, the security team from the FBI is also here. They're being very strict, too." Bobby began analyzing the situation. There was a security vulnerability at the hotel's main entrance. The cameras not working was a big problem. Also, he noticed that no one was controlling the hotel's back exit. Bobby approached the security manager. "Excuse me, I'm a taxi driver, but I have some observations about security." Marcus Thompson looked down at Bobby. "You're a taxi driver, aren't you? Security is our business." "Yes, but I've noticed some things," Bobby said calmly. Marcus laughed. "Thanks, but we're professionals." The other security guards in the lobby also started laughing. One said, "The taxi driver has become a security expert." Another mocked, "Maybe you should give us lessons." Bobby remained calm. "I just want to help." But nobody was taking him seriously. Marcus Thompson waved his hand. Okay. You go about your business and we'll go about ours." Bobby retreated but continued to identify the hotel's security vulnerabilities with his 25 years of experience. The things he observed worried him greatly. The back exit wasn't being controlled. The garage entrance was unsafe, and most importantly, access to the hotel's roof was completely unprotected. Bobby went home but couldn't sleep because tomorrow a very big security risk could occur early the next morning. He came to the hotel and checked the situation again. Secretary Baker was scheduled to arrive at 11 o'clock. The FBI security team had also completed their preparations. But Bobby still saw the same security vulnerabilities at 9 o'clock. He entered the hotel and found Marcus Thompson again. "Mr. Marcus, I'm the taxi driver who spoke yesterday evening. I want to tell you something important." Marcus turned angrily. "You again? What are you still doing here?" There's a security problem on the roof. Someone could launch an attack from there, Bobby said seriously. Marcus laughed. You're really funny, taxi driver, roof security expert, are you? The other security guards in the lobby started laughing again. An FBI agent also approached. What's the problem here? Marcus explained. This taxi driver is trying to give us security lessons. FBI Agent Sarah Collins looked at Bobby. Sir, these matters aren't your area of interest. Please mind your own business. Bobby tried one last time. There's really a serious security problem. But nobody was listening to him. Everyone was looking at him as just a taxi driver. At 10 o'clock, Secretary Baker's convoy approached the hotel Bobby was watching from outside, and what he feared began. He saw movement on the hotel's roof. There was a person looking through binoculars. Bobby ran inside with his heart pounding. Emergency! There's someone on the roof, he shouted. Marcus Thompson. Enough! This man's mind is confused. Call the police, he said. But at that moment, armed attackers appeared outside the hotel. A group of 20 people began surrounding the hotel. This was a professional attack, and Bobby understood the seriousness of the situation. Everyone in the lobby started panicking. FBI agents were trying to coordinate with their radios, but the situation was getting out of control. Marcus Thompson turned to Bobby. How did you know about this situation? Bobby now had to reveal his identity. He pulled his old Secret Service badge from his pocket. Because I'm Robert Martinez, former Secret Service agent, I protected 4 presidents for 25 years. Everyone in the lobby was shocked. Agent Collins approached Bobby. Were you really in the Secret Service? Yes, and right now we're experiencing a very big security crisis. Bobby immediately took action. Marcus, have your men control the back exit. Agent Collins, send a team to the roof. I'm activating the main security protocol. Bobby's voice and demeanor had completely changed. He was now an experienced security expert. Everyone started listening to his orders. Get Secretary Baker to the safe room now. Bobby was giving commands. His 25 years of experience was kicking in. Marcus Thompson asked Bobby, well, how do you know this so well? Because I've analyzed and prevented hundreds of these types of attacks. Bobby began coordinating the operation. Agent Collins. The attackers look professional. They're using multiple entry points. What do you mean? Agent Collins asked. They're planning simultaneous attacks from the roof, back entrance, and main lobby. This is standard VIP assassination protocol. Bobby was visualizing the hotel's layout in his mind. Marcus, how many people on your team? 6 people. Insufficient. I'll coordinate with the FBI. Bobby turned to Agent Collins. Agent Collins, this is standard Tier 1 threat level protocol. Call Washington D.C. police for backup. Bobby's professional language was surprising. The terms he used were exactly those of a security expert. Bobby, what exactly did you do in the Secret Service? Marcus asked curiously. I worked in presidential protection detail. I protected Bush, Obama, Trump, and Biden. I took security responsibility at G7 summits, NATO meetings, and UN General Assembly. Bobby's explanation mesmerized everyone at that moment. Gunshots came from the roof. Bobby immediately shouted, "Get down, everybody, take cover." Everyone hit the floor. Bobby asked Marcus, "Where are your men?" 2 on the roof, 3 in the back, 1 with me. Agent Collins, where's the backup? It'll be here in 5 minutes. Bobby analyzed the situation. 5 minutes is too long. Where's Secretary Baker? In the safe room. Okay, I'm going to the roof, Marcus. You hold the lobby. Marcus was surprised. You're 62 years old. Age is just a number, Marcus. I still have my active certification. Bobby started running up the stairs. His 25 years of muscle memory kicked in. His way of moving had completely changed. He was no longer a taxi driver, but an elite Secret Service agent. When he reached the roof, he encountered 2 attackers. Bobby quickly took position, thanks to the training he had maintained for years. "Federal agent, drop your weapons!" he shouted. The attackers were surprised because they weren't expecting an elderly taxi driver. Bobby's movements were very professional. He quickly neutralized both attackers when he went downstairs. Everyone was looking at him with different eyes. Agent Collins. "Bobby, you're incredible. Where did you learn these things?" "I trained at Quantico. I passed advanced tactical training every year for 15 years. Marcus Thompson. "Well, why did you become a taxi driver?" "After retiring, I wanted a quiet life, but apparently the past won't leave me alone." At that moment, police sirens were heard. Backup was coming. "Bobby, Agent Collins, now let's clean up the attackers in the back. I'll do a flanking maneuver, you use frontal approach." "Bobby, are you taking command?" Agent Collins laughed. "Old habits, sorry, but this strategic approach will work." The operation was successfully completed under Bobby's leadership. All attackers were captured. Secretary Baker remained safe. The hotel was secured. The crisis was resolved thanks to Bobby's intervention. Marcus Thompson approached Bobby. "Bobby, I owe you an apology. I underestimated you." "No problem, Marcus. I look ordinary too." Agent Collins. "Bobby, are you still active or retired?" "I'm retired, but I can still serve when needed." "We shouldn't lose experienced agents like you." That evening, after the operation was completed, the FBI made an offer to Bobby. "Bobby, would you join us as a consultant?" "Thank you, but I'm a taxi driver now." "Well, but can we call you if we need you?" "Of course." As Bobby left the hotel, Marcus Thompson told him, "Bobby, you're a real hero." Bobby smiled. "I'm just someone who was in the right place at the right time." The next day, local media announced the event with big headlines. "Taxi driver saves Secretary of State." "Former Secret Service agent reveals secret identity." "Washington's hidden hero." Bobby declined interview offers. He just said he wanted to continue being a taxi driver, but he was famous now. His passengers recognized him and wanted to hear his story one day. A young passenger asked Bobby, "Sir, did you really protect presidents?" "Yes, son." "What did it feel like?" "It was a great responsibility, but it was an honor to serve my country. Can you be a role model for me?" Bobby smiled. "Of course. But remember, the most important thing is serving people, protecting them." A week later, Secret Service called. "Bobby, would you like to come back to us? Part-time consulting." "No, thank you. I'm a taxi driver now." "Well, but our door is always open." After Bobby hung up the phone, he thought maybe this was real service, safely transporting ordinary people to their destinations, chatting with them, touching their daily lives. A month later, Bobby's story became the subject of a documentary, but Bobby declined again. "My story is ordinary. What matters is serving." But people were inspired by Bobby's story because he had shown that age is just a number. Past experiences never disappear, and the right skills at the right time can save lives. Bobby now continues working as a taxi driver, but his passengers now look at him with different eyes, because he's not just a taxi driver, he's also a hero. And most importantly, he shows everyone that even the most ordinary-looking people can have extraordinary pasts. 3 months after the incident, Bobby was driving through downtown Washington when he picked up an elderly woman from the airport. Mrs. Eleanor Richardson was visiting her grandson and had heard about the hero taxi driver on the news. "Are you the famous Bobby Martinez?" she asked with a warm smile. "I'm just Bobby, ma'am. Nothing special about me," he replied modestly. "Oh, but there is something very special about you, dear. You reminded us all that heroes walk among us every day." During the 20-minute ride to her destination, Mrs. Richardson shared her own story. She was a retired nurse who had worked in military hospitals during the Vietnam War. "I treated many brave soldiers like you, Bobby men who never talked about what they did. but carried the weight of their service quietly, she said. Bobby found himself opening up to her in ways he hadn't with anyone else. "Sometimes I wonder if I made the right choice retiring and becoming a taxi driver," he admitted. "The service called me back, but I turned them down." Mrs. Richardson reached forward and patted his shoulder. "Bobby, dear, sometimes the greatest service is the one that goes unnoticed. You transport people safely. You listen to their stories. You make them feel secure in your car. That's a different kind of protection, but it's just as important." Her words struck deep. Bobby realized she was right. He had been protecting people all along. Just in a different way over the following weeks, Bobby found himself paying more attention to his passengers. Each person had a story. Each ride was an opportunity to serve someone. A businessman stressed about a presentation found calm in Bobby's steady. Driving a young mother worried about her sick child felt reassured by his gentle encouragement. An elderly man going to a doctor's appointment shared memories of his own military service with Bobby, who listened with understanding and respect. One day, Bobby received a call from Agent Collins. "Bobby, we have a situation. We need your expertise." "What kind of situation?" Bobby asked. "There's a dignitary visiting next week, and the hotel is the same one as before. They specifically requested you as a security consultant." Bobby paused. He had told himself he was done with that life, but hearing the need in Agent Collins's voice stirred something within him. "Just consulting," he said finally. "I'm still a taxi driver." Of course, Bobby just consulting. The next week, Bobby found himself back at the Grand Marriott this time, wearing a suit and carrying a briefcase, instead of driving a taxi. The hotel staff, who had once mocked him, now treated him with deep respect. Marcus Thompson greeted him warmly. "Bobby, it's an honor to have you here as our consultant." "Thank you, Marcus. Let's make sure this event goes smoothly." Bobby spent the day reviewing security protocols, identifying potential vulnerabilities, and training the security team. His 25 years of experience combined with his fresh perspective as someone who had stepped away from the business proved invaluable. "The difference between then and now," he told the team, "is that before you saw me as an outsider, now you understand that security isn't about titles or uniforms. It's about vigilance, competence, and caring about people's safety." The event went perfectly. No incidents, no problems. Secretary Baker himself sought out Bobby afterward. "Agent Martinez, I've heard about what happened here. I want to personally thank you for your service, both past and present." "Thank you, Mr. Secretary. It was my honor," Bobby replied as he left the hotel that evening. Marcus walked him to his taxi. "Bobby, I have to ask, why do you keep driving a taxi when you could have any security job you want?" Bobby looked at his yellow cab, then back at Marcus. "Because, Marcus, every passenger I pick up trusts me with their safety for those few minutes or hours. I'm responsible for getting them where they need to go safely. That's still protection, it's still service, and it's still important." Marcus nodded, understanding for the first time the true depth of Bobby's character over the next year. Bobby developed a routine. He would consult on high-profile security events when needed, but always returned to his taxi. The word spread quietly through Washington's security community about the taxi driver, who was also a legendary Secret Service agent. Young agents would sometimes request rides with him just to learn from his wisdom. The key to protection, Bobby would tell them, isn't the gun or the badge. It's the mindset. You have to genuinely care about the people you're protecting. Whether it's the president or a tired businessman trying to get home to his family. One evening, Bobby picked up a young man from the airport who seemed nervous and agitated. "First time in D.C., Bobby asked, noticing the man's behavior. "Yes, sir. I'm starting a new job tomorrow. I'm really nervous," the young man replied. "What kind of job?" Bobby asked gently. "Security. Actually, I'm joining the Secret Service training program. I've dreamed of this my whole life, but I'm scared I'm not good enough." Bobby glanced in the rearview mirror, studying the young man's face. He saw himself 40 years ago, full of ambition and uncertainty. "What's your name, son?" "David, sir. David Chen." "Well, David, let me tell you something about being good enough. The fact that you're nervous, the fact that you care, that's already a good sign. The agents who worry about doing a good job are usually the ones who do." During the drive to David's hotel, Bobby shared stories of his early days in the service, the challenges, the fears, the moments of doubt. "But how do you overcome the fear?" David asked. "You don't overcome it. You use it. Fear keeps you alert, keeps you sharp. The day you stop being afraid is the day you become careless. And in our business, careless gets people hurt." When they arrived at the hotel, David hesitated before getting out. "Sir, can I ask you something? You seem to know a lot about this stuff. Are you in security too?" Bobby smiled. "I used to be, son, I used to be." "Any advice for my first day?" David asked. Bobby turned to face him fully. "Remember that this job isn't about you. It's about the people you protect. Serve with honor. Be humble. And always remember that the greatest agents are the ones whose names you never hear in the news." David nodded solemnly. "Thank you, sir. I won't forget this." 6 months later, Bobby received a letter addressed to his taxi company. It was from David Chen, who had successfully completed his training and was now working as a Secret Service agent. "Dear Bobby," the letter began, "I don't know if you remember me, but you picked me up from the airport 6 months ago. I was the nervous kid starting Secret Service training. You probably don't know this, but you gave me exactly the advice I needed to hear your words about using fear as a tool, about serving with honor, about staying humble. They've guided me through every day of training. I graduated at the top of my class, and I know it's partly because of what you taught me in that taxi ride. I did some research and found out who you really are. Agent Robert Martinez, the legend himself. I'm honored to have met you, even if it was just as a taxi driver. Thank you for your service and for continuing to serve in your own quiet way. Respectfully, Agent David Chen. P.S. I hope someday I can be half the agent you were." Bobby read the letter 3 times, tears in his eyes. He realized that his impact hadn't ended when he retired. It had simply changed form. He was still training agents, still protecting people, just in a different way. That evening, Bobby called his old friend Tony Martinez, a former Secret Service colleague who now ran a private security firm. "Tony, it's Bobby. I've been thinking." "About what, buddy?" "About what we talked about at my retirement party. You said I'd never really retire from this job." "Yeah, and you told me I was crazy that you were done with all of it." "Well, you were right, Tony. I'm not done. I'm just doing it differently." Bobby told Tony about his taxi driving, about the consultations, about the young agents who sought his wisdom. "I think I understand now why I became a taxi driver. It wasn't about running away from my past. It was about finding a new way to serve." Tony was quiet for a moment. "Bobby, you've always been the smartest guy I know, even when you're not trying to be. I want to do more, Tony. I want to help train the next generation of agents, not officially, but in my own way." "What do you have in mind?" "I'm thinking about writing a book, not about the classified stuff, but about the mindset, about what it really means to protect people, about how service doesn't end when you retire. It just changes form." Over the next year, Bobby began writing his book, tentatively titled The Guardian's Heart: Lessons in Service and Protection. He wrote in the early mornings before starting his taxi shifts, and in the evenings after parking his cab for the day. The book wasn't about famous operations or classified missions. It was about the philosophy of protection, about the responsibility that comes with being trusted with someone's safety, about the importance of humility, vigilance, and genuine care for others. As word of the book spread through the security community, publishers began reaching out. But Bobby was selective. He wanted to work with someone who understood that this wasn't about fame or money. It was about passing on knowledge to those who would carry the torch of protection in the years to come. Meanwhile, Bobby continued driving his taxi. Each passenger remained an opportunity to serve, to protect, to make someone's day a little better and safer. He had found his true calling, not in spite of his past, but because of it. Bobby's story teaches us that we should never judge anyone by their appearance, because every person has their own unique story, and sometimes the greatest heroes appear in the most unexpected disguises. His journey shows us that service takes many forms, that protection isn't always about badges and guns. Sometimes it's about a safe ride home, a listening ear, or words of encouragement to someone who needs them. Bobby's transformation from elite agent to taxi driver and back to respected consultant proves that our past experiences, no matter how extraordinary, never leave us. They simply find new ways to express themselves in service to others. Now I ask you, have you ever met someone who looked ordinary but actually had an extraordinary past? How do you think we should get to know people, by their appearance or by their true character? Share in the comments, because at One Human, One Story, we believe every person has a valuable story. Thank you for watching. If this story inspired you, please like, subscribe, and share, because real heroes always live among us. See you in the next video. And remember, sometimes the biggest secrets are hidden in the most ordinary-looking places, and sometimes the greatest service happens in the most unexpected ways.